Welcome! Welcome, one and all. I am Rykerian. You can call me Rye. I have been playing Final Fantasy and other RPGs for a very long time. A collective amount of years that would mean that I would probably be able. Just the years I've been playing Final Fantasy games is enough to have graduated high school. Um, but right when I was in college, right after I graduated high school, I found a lovely new series called Kingdom Hearts. Isn't that lovely? That's a great logo right there. And Kingdom Hearts was a co op production between Square Enix, ooh, who made Final Fantasy, and Disney, who I was just getting over my edgelord high school phase of hating. I was starting to learn the fact that as I was getting older, I learned that the very important lesson of you can hate a company but still love their products. An amazing thing that I've discovered when I was getting older because I thought if I hated Disney and I didn't agree with their business practices, I had to hate everything that they were ever a part of. Turns out, no. So I love Disney movies, but I acknowledge the company is kind of crap. But I got into the series to give you an idea of like when I graduated from school. I first started playing Kingdom Hearts in the year 2003. Oh yeah, these are my bona fides. This is how you know I know what I'm talking about. If I can write at all. You can barely see that up there, can you? There you go. So I started playing Kingdom Hearts in 2003. Since then, I have played every single one of these games as they have come out through all the different installments and iterations, all the way up to 3, which, interestingly enough, came out, 13 years between 2 and 3. Everyone knows the joke. So I have played a lot of Kingdom Hearts over the years. A lot. If there's been a Kingdom Hearts game that I have not played, it's been I've consumed it in some other way. Either by reading about it, or reading the manga, or watching like complete breakdowns of all the cutscenes, something. I've played a lot and done a lot of Kingdom Hearts. So, with that being said, I thought it'd be fun tonight to spend the evening explaining Kingdom Hearts, because the one thing you always hear, the universal thing, Kingdom Hearts is confusing. Or insert your own variation here. It could be, instead of confusing, makes no sense. Yeah, whatever. But the truth is, it's really about how the information gets delivered to you. If you played the games in the release order, it's designed so that the information actually gets given to you, delivered to you, in a way that you're learning it bit by bit by bit, moving through it and learning the information in a way that's not weird. It's just you learn one new layer after another. Yeah. Now, as to the format of this presentation, if anyone in the audience has a question, there is no question and answer time. There is no little, we'll set aside time for questions at the end. No. Jump in, chime in, throw in questions wherever you see fit. If you have a question, ask it. I'll do what I can to answer it. Will this be chaotic and nuts? Yes, but you know what? That's on par for my streams. But beyond that, I'm going to go try and go through this the best way I think there is to explain it. For people who just, don't know Kingdom Hearts. So we'll start with the basics. Oh yeah, I forgot to start the music. Actually, I had a nice little mix of Kingdom Hearts music to go with this tonight. So, the basic thing that you always have to understand in the Kingdom Hearts series is that the whole thing, everything, operates on fairy tale logic. This isn't the type of story that you can sit there and go, well, you can't breathe in space. Yeah, you can. Why? Why not? It's kind of got that fanciful tone to it where not everything is exactly what it is in our world. There's no one-for-one equivalence necessarily. Some rules apply, some rules don't. And because of that, there's a little bit more of a flux to things. There's metaphor finds its way into becoming fixed reality. In that sense, one of the core things that you need to understand about the Kingdom Hearts world is that there are two segmented layers to reality. You have the world of light and the world of darkness. The world of light is pretty much what you understand as the real world, our world. Kind of. This is where there are different planets and worlds to visit, mostly based off of various Disney franchises or Final Fantasy installments. And you could travel between these worlds and whatnot, but this is a world of light. This is the world where everything is balanced and good, and there is no evil. The world of darkness, however, is where things get weird. It is a realm of, essentially, corruption and evil and darkness. It's a place where the natural laws of things don't necessarily flow. For instance, if you were to end up in the world of darkness, time stops. Time doesn't move in the world of darkness. Someone could fall in there and spend decades in the world of darkness, and provided that you don't get corrupted and turned into a creature of darkness, you won't age. Because time doesn't apply there. The natural laws don't necessarily apply there. Time and space is all wibbly-wobbly. And built off of this idea of there being a world of light and a world of darkness, there is the concepts of light and dark. Light and dark are not metaphorical components to this world. They're not just like, oh yeah, darkness, bad. Light, good. No, they are actual physical elements in this world, in Kingdom Hearts. Light is the physical manifestation of good, and dark is the physical manifestation of evil. Just as you would find fire, or water, or air, or earth, you have light and dark. Darkness can corrupt light and destroy it. Light can purify darkness. With that out of the way, that is the core understanding. That is how the universe works in the Kingdom Hearts series. This seems trivial, but it's actually an important ground point to build off of, because if you start thinking about like darkness and light as non-physical elements of this universe, like just their metaphors, a lot of the later stuff starts breaking down. And I see a lot of people get hung up on that. There are other places in this, like if you see, I have this little squiggly line here. That would be an area known as the realm in between, which doesn't come up a lot in the series. There's a few different places, but it's essentially a small buffer zone, a no man's, a DMZ, if you will, that separates darkness from light. And historically, there have been protectors who stand in guard on this barrier and kind of keep an eye out on things to make sure the balance is kept in store. Because as, you know, there is no ultimate way of eliminating these elements. Light cannot be destroyed, no more than you can get rid of wind or fire. It's a natural part of the universe. It can be suppressed, it can be lessened, but it will always be present as long as physical reality exists. Same with dark, though. You can't get rid of dark. So what do? You guard the barrier between the two. Make sure darkness doesn't seep in and start messing up with the world of light, and stays in its own little playpen. This is generally when something goes on weird in the Final Fantasy... excuse me, not Final Fantasy. I play too much Final Fantasy. In the Kingdom Hearts universe, that's usually what causes it, is when darkness starts breaking through into the world of light. And how does that happen? Final Fantasy brain rot is real. It is! Oh, it happens when you've been playing through the entire Final Fantasy franchise for so long at this point. I think we're up to like 3 years at this point. Everything just, everything looks like Final Fantasy. Is this an RPG? It's Final Fantasy. Are we going to play Final Fantasy tonight? Vry, we're playing Persona. What'd I say? See? It's just the way it goes. But how does darkness seep in is the big question. How does it get past that barrier? Well, generally, that is the final concept that needs to be understood in the Kingdom Hearts series, which is hearts. Hearts are a thing. Like, they look like this when they come out of people. They're in that exact shape. I don't know. Who knew that the Valentine's people got it right? But yeah. But essentially, every person has a heart, has a body, and has a soul. These two make up the primary concerns of most of the Kingdom Hearts franchise. We don't know a lot about the souls. It hasn't really come up that much in the series. We know they exist, we know that they're separate from hearts, but other than that, we don't really know. As best we can assume, it's just what's left over after there is no heart or body, is that there is soul. It's the bit of you that is you that keeps all of this together. But when someone's soul, their heart, not their soul, but their heart, they start having evil thoughts. They start giving in to temptation. They become wicked, as it were. Their hearts are consumed by darkness. And what happens then? That person dies. Their heart, consumed by darkness, becomes what's called a heartless. Why is the dark heart called a heartless? I don't know. It's not like this is a name that came about early on and then they decided to come up with the backstory later. You're introduced to this concept with this explanation. It's a weird name thing, but that's alright, because it gets weirder. Because what happens to the person's body now that they don't have a heart? Well, the body becomes a nobody. You have heartless and nobodies. And these are the two primary antagonists for the majority of the original trilogy of the Kingdom Hearts games. And that's the big thing you really need to know about them, is the Heartless used to be someone's heart. And they either fell into temptation or were killed by another Heartless and corrupted them. Their bodies then get turned into nobodies. Because the body doesn't have a heart, that's just what happens to it. And then the soul goes off and does something else. We don't know what happens to the soul in this situation. But we do know it's still out there. Because, as you find out throughout the course of the series, if you eliminate the Heartless and eliminate the Nobody, poof, they turn back into the person. Which means that soul had to be somewhere to piece all these things back together once they were gone. Or once all the pieces were available again. Does that mean no one dies? No, absolutely people die. They just, don't die by the means of necessarily forever if they've turned into a Heartless and Nobody. They can come back from that state. But this is the primary means by which all of the enemies and creations and things like that in the in the series operate under. So, with that said, I find the best way to explain the course of events is to follow one man's entire career through it. Because he is the only one that is there from before the events of Kingdom Hearts 1 all the way through to Kingdom Hearts 3. He is the most consistent element in this entire plot. Even before there was Sora. Sora being, we'll get to Sora. But you've seen Sora. He's in Smash Brothers. That's Sora. But there is a man named Xehanort. It is pronounced Xehanort. Or Xehanort. It's Xehanort. You don't pronounce the H. I don't know why. Which, to those who are clever, and this is not important to the plot or the world building or the setting, but this is just a thing that you're going to notice a lot. There's not really any significance to it beyond the fact that this is how Tetsuya Nomura likes to name the characters in this. He likes anagrams. Names have significance in the Kingdom Hearts series, not for any particular in-universe reason. That's just the way that he's come up with them. I get it. We all get it. We all had that OC back in the day named, Ryu Ebonfire or whatever, and you're like, yeah, because, his name's Ryu because it means dragon. Or is like, oh yeah, his name is Aku Ryu because he's the bad dragon. And that was before calling something was a bad dragon was a problematic thing. It was okay to call things that back then. And not have people on the internet give you weird looks. But it was this kind of thing. It's that kind of logic. There is so much of Kingdom Hearts that just boils down to, what would a 15-year-old on DeviantArt do? And really, it's that kind of mindset given form, which is kind of awesome in its own right. It's just like fully embraces that mentality. And it's really enjoyable in that way. Because it doesn't feel any shame about it. It just embraces it. But to give you an idea, Xehanort is an anagram of no heart. In case you're wondering, that's because he's the main villain. The guy whose name means no heart, rearranges to no heart, is the main bad guy. But he's the most consistent through line of the plot that we have. So, in terms of a general timeline to follow, to understand Kingdom Hearts, there is, first and foremost, here, we'll call this a little cloud here. This is the Age of Fairy Tales. The Age of Fairy Tales is where you find the mobile games. Essentially, Key, Unchained Key, and Union Cross. We're not going to be talking about those right now, because that's just going to make things a whole lot more confusing, and they won't matter until the fourth game comes out. So we're just going to ignore them right now. We're going to focus on the rest of the timeline. Because this will at least give you an overview of everything you would need to know to understand what's going on in the main franchise games. Simple as that. So the earliest point in those games we have is, we'll say this is Kingdom Hearts 1. Right? We don't start with Kingdom Hearts 1. We start 10 years before Kingdom Hearts 1. Ah, yeah, we got ourselves a Star Wars prequel going on here. These are the events of when we're first introduced to Xehanort. Xehanort, at this point, is an old man. He is a Keyblade master. Keyblades, as we find out through the course of the game, are essentially magical weapons that have the ability to unlock hearts. They have the ability to open up and they're the only weapon that can defeat Heartless and release the hearts to be joined back up once the Nobody is destroyed. They are the kind of like the universal super weapon of like the ancient knights. They're a lightsaber, essentially. They are lightsabers. Keyblades, lightsaber. Only certain people can wield them. They're kind of mystical, magical hoodoo powers. You have people who wield them that are like Keyblade Knights, Keyblade Masters, Keyblade Padawan, Keyblade Youngling. I think is the best way probably to relate to it. People understand Star Wars, right? It's just as silly, but people understand that one. Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, does the Force make any sense to anyone? No, but no one complains about that. I don't know. But Kingdom Hearts is very much similar. It's very similar to the point where Mark Hamill is in it as a wise master. There's a lot of Star Wars in this game. I'm thinking about it. But the entire course of the series is essentially Xehanort's big plot to create something called the Keyblade. Not this Keyblade, because that would make too much sense. We're talking about the Keyblade. That's the Greek letter Ki, or Chi. I don't know why. It's clever. It's one of the things where you go, but it also makes a pain to explain. But this weapon, I suppose I should get into explaining this before we get back to the timeline. We'll come back to the timeline here in a minute. So you have the Keyblade. Which is the ultimate weapon. Think of it as like Ultimate Weapon from Final Fantasy. Once again, Final Fantasy, it's in here too. It's like you take Disney and Star Wars, back when those were separate things, and Final Fantasy, and you put it in a blender, and that's Kingdom Hearts. But the Keyblade is the ultimate weapon. Why? What makes it ultimate? What makes it so cool? Well, it's the only Keyblade that can open Kingdom Hearts. And I know that means nothing because I haven't explained it yet, but we'll get to that. We'll give it a sec. Give it a second. Okay. So one of the big things that Keyblades can do is they can access and open up hearts, right? They can open up hearts and let in, lock hearts. Locking hearts becomes kind of a reoccurring thing where you want to safeguard something from it, because it turns out people have hearts. Animals have hearts. Worlds have hearts. Right? Worlds have hearts. Every world you go to, every world you see in Kingdom Hearts has its own heart. And if that heart is just like any of these, just like this person can turn into a heartless, this animal can turn into a heartless, if its heart falls to darkness, a world can fall to darkness if its heart gets corrupted by darkness. As long as it has a heart, it can be corrupted by darkness. Now, why is that important? Well, besides the fact that much of the first game and the first two games is going around and safeguarding worlds by locking their hearts so darkness can't get to them, the big thing throughout the entire series is something called Kingdom Hearts, which is a weird name, and I have a little block here now. Hey, stop that. There, thank you. And my entire thing is lagging. There's my scuff. I knew that was going to happen eventually with this tablet. Let me see if I can fix this. There. I fixed it. Sort of. Now it's freaking out on me. You doing okay, Mr. Tablet? Huh. It just closed my entire document on me. There we go. Anyway. Clear this up. Get my chalkboard back. Kingdom Hearts is the heart of the realm of light. Even more so than that, Kingdom Hearts is supposedly the heart of everything. It's the universe. This is the universe's heart. It's where all light came from. And because it's the source of all light, and light creates a shadow, it can also be viewed as the source of all darkness. Because as much as it creates light, for as much light as it creates, it also creates darkness with it. The Keyblade is the only weapon that can access the heart of the universe. Which means whoever has access to the Keyblade can have access to infinite light. Infinite power. But also the ability to corrupt the universe. So this is a very big deal. This is the only thing that can do it. This Keyblade. Super important item. We don't find out about it for like 3-4 games. But it's important. Because you see, way back in that Age of Fairy Tales, I said we weren't going to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it just a little bit here, just because it is important for one thing. There was a war between all the Keyblade wielders at the time, way back in the Age of Fairy Tales. They all went to war. This was called the Keyblade War. I know. It's such a clever name. Surprised it wasn't like an anagram of Keyblade for the war. But the whole thing there was they were fighting over who got to have the Keyblade. And in the process, the Keyblade was broken. It shattered into 7 pieces of light and 13 pieces of darkness. That's the 13 darknesses and 7 lights. This becomes important way later on. Because you see, the whole goal of Xehanort is he wants to create the Keyblade. That's his big goal. Why? Well, it's important to understand that his goal is somewhat shifting, but somewhat consistent. Essentially, he wants to bring about the end of all things because he wants to see what happens next. Like, he wants to wipe out the universe using the Keyblade in Kingdom Hearts because he wants to know what happens after that. Ultimately, he's an academic. He's curious about the repercussions and the effects of what happens, what survives, what moves on, what comes next when everything is gone. Like, he wants to, essentially, he's asking that question of, when the next big bang happens, what happens next? And he wants to know, and that's his big thing. I don't know if that's good or bad in terms of a villain motivation. It's unique. I will give it that. I will say that in the end, the idea of the fact that there could be something else and wants to know what is a pretty cool thing in terms of a villain motivation, at least to me. You know, he's not trying to, he's not doing the Final Fantasy thing where, the world sucks, so I must destroy it. And thus there will be no world. And no more sucking. I'm honestly shocked by how many times that comes up in the Kingdom Hearts and the Final Fantasy series. So it was nice to have Xehanort be a guy who's just kind of like, why do you want to destroy everything? I just kind of want to know what happens. You know, I don't agree that that's a good idea, but man, I respect the curiosity. So 10 years before the first Kingdom Hearts, could not use the brush tool because the target layer is hidden. No, it's not. I'm on that layer. So 10 years before Kingdom Hearts, Xehanort begins his grand experiment to try and recreate the Keyblade. The one with the X. I'm just going to call it the X-Blade, just to avoid confusion with this one. This one, not this one. So through this, he finds a young man named Ventus, who's a blonde-haired kid and he takes this blonde-haired kid and essentially rips all the darkness out of him. Which makes Vanitas. Vanitas kind of looks like a Kamen Rider villain. And his whole idea, Xehanort's whole plot, 10 years before the start of the 10 years before the first Kingdom Hearts game, is that he wants to pit these two against each other because the clash between light and dark is how he believes the Keyblade will be created, the X-Blade. So, but he wants to make sure that he has equal amounts light and dark. And that's his whole first experiment that happens way back here. A bunch of other stuff happens involving some other characters. Namely, a girl named Aqua. She's awesome. And a guy named Terra with an awesome mullet. They essentially go on an adventure, and between all this stuff, what ends up happening at the end of it, Xehanort, our big bad guy, ends up dying, but puts his body, his mind, his heart into Terra's body, because he has figured out a way to transfer his heart. More importantly, for the long-term repercussions of the series, he has learned how to put his copies, bits of his heart, into multiple people. Now, what is the grand reason for that? Well, we'll find out eventually, but we'll get to that here in a minute because I need to take a quick break. Oh, hey, Matilde. How's it going? All right, so thank you. So, when we left off, we were talking about how the fact that Xehanort... Ooh, breakfast. Hopefully it's tasty. I just had dinner myself. Hopefully you're having something scrumptious. So, what we ended up with last time was we were talking about the fact that Xehanort had set off his big plan to create the X-Blade, Kai-Blade thing. Salted duck egg. Nothing too fancy. If you say so, because all I'm knowing is you're saying like I'm having duck egg around here. That sounds pretty fancy, considering the only eggs we ever have are chicken eggs. I mean, may not be that fancy there, but I've never heard of anyone having duck egg anything here. That is not egg. Series here is like, oh yeah, foie gras. I'm like, that's not the egg. Pretty common there? Okay. So I assume it'd probably be the equivalent of just having chicken eggs for breakfast here. So, back in the day, Xehanort was our big bad for the entire thing, to the point where this entire sequence from before Kingdom Hearts 1 all the way to Kingdom Hearts 3 is called the Xehanort Saga. To give you an idea of why we're using him as our through line. He did an experiment where he essentially split a young boy into all of his good and all of his darkness. Pom-Pom, hey! And then pit them against each other to create the X-Blade, the Kai-Blade, the Keyblade, whatever. This failed. It was unsuccessful. They created the Keyblade, but it was an impure version of it, and it broke. Xehanort body hops into Terra, up here, and continues on the timeline that way. Aqua falls into the realm of darkness and is not heard from again until Kingdom Hearts 3. So, sometime before Kingdom Hearts 1... Are you really late for the explanation? Not really. We're just getting around to the actual, like, we've covered the fundamentals, and now we're getting into the actual, like, nitty-gritty of what happens in the story. So I suppose it really depends on if what you want the explanation for. If you have any questions, feel free to chime in. I will happily go back and explain if you have questions. I don't have issues doing that. This is about learning, not explaining. And the best way to learn is to ask questions. And if that means me repeating myself, that's fine, as long as we're learning from it. Some say I would make a good teacher, but I have far too expensive tastes for that. So, between the events of Kingdom Hearts 1 and the 10 years ago mark, which was the Birth by Sleep game, Xehanort, in Terra's body, decides to turn himself into a Heartless. Using a Keyblade, he essentially unlocks his own heart and lets the darkness in, and does the whole splits into a nobody and a Heartless. The nobody version ends up going to have a plan that will come back later. We'll get back to him, but we'll know for the time is he is named Xemnas. And the Heartless version is called Ansem. Xemnas, of course, being an anagram for X-Ansem. These names have some confusion later on, but we'll get to that when we get to that, because it's not necessary to know now. I'm trying to explain things kind of in the same way the games do, because if you try and info dump all of this at once at the very beginning, it can get very confusing. Because you see, this name gets used more than once in this franchise. Clean this off here. You could probably just start a new thing at this point. We're so messed up and crowded on this. I have no sense of scale when it comes to my drawings. Let's just do this then. Make sure I'm on my right layer. Okay, good. You have Xehanort. Who hops into the body Are you being mean to me again? There you go. Laggy little. Hops into the body of a teenager named Terra. Less said about that, the better. Terranort, if we want to call him that, then decides to split himself into a nobody and a heartless. Come on. Oh, you're doing this again, aren't you? No, stop. There. This is the laggiest my tablet has ever been. And we'll say this line... Really, I just need to keep that button away from my finger. This line represents the events of Kingdom Hearts 1. So just before Kingdom Hearts on, we have this. It doesn't want to explain Kingdom Hearts. You know, it might be rebelling a bit. So then you have... Zem and Ansem. And this sets up the primary conflict, because Xemnas becomes the villain of Kingdom Hearts 2, and Ansem is the villain of Kingdom Hearts 1. And as we had previously discussed, at the end of this, of course, Ansem gets destroyed, and Xemnas gets destroyed. And as we had discussed earlier, when a Keyblade is used to destroy a nobody and a heartless of the same person, they then reform into their original body. Xehanort comes back for Kingdom Hearts 3. This is the basic through line of the villain for the Kingdom Hearts trilogy. This is the overview. Because I will tell you this, it gets a lot more into this. Because during this point, Xehanort has already figured out another trick that he's discovered. Is that he is able to break his heart up into multiple little pieces and put them into other people. Say a piece goes to this guy. Oh, and another piece goes to this guy. Oh, what about to this guy? And throughout each of these, he's able to essentially Horcruxes. Yes, it's a very good equivalent. He's able to split it up, and ultimately, what he does is ends up by the time you get around to Kingdom Hearts 3, there are 13 different versions of Xehanort running around. Oh, here. Giving his heart to so much. Ah. He's really a philanthropist when you get down to it. Just putting his heart out there. It means so much to the world. And earlier we had mentioned the fact that there was a theory that after the experiment with Ventus and Vanitas ended up failing to create the X-Blade, that is when we found out, or Xehanort found out, that it's not a matter of having an equal force of light and dark colliding to create the X-Blade. You need to recreate the conditions under which it shattered, which means light, which has a stronger presence than darkness, needs to have less number. Namely, the equation he comes out to is that you need 7 forces of light fight against 13 forces of darkness. And by doing this conflict, you should be able to create a true Keyblade. X-Blade. I'm going to get that right one of these days. It's weird to say get it right, because I'm only saying it right as in, like, X-Blade I'm saying for the sake of communication, but saying Keyblade is the correct term for it. Kingdom Hearts math, I don't think there was anything harder than trigger calculus. Well, you have to think about it less as math and more as physics or chemistry. Light is denser than dark. Since these are formidable elements of the universe, like fire, wind, water, they can be calculated as a level of density. Just as much as water is denser than air, and fire is put out by water and whatnot. Light and dark have their own particular traits. I think would be the best way. Characteristics. And one of these is that light is denser than dark. Which makes sense in some ways if you think about it with the fairy tale logic. Good outweighs evil. Good is stronger than evil, just inherently. So light is stronger than darkness, so you need more darkness to create an equal amount of light. So in that way, as I said, it's more like chemistry or physics than pure math. Which this whole concept ends up becoming the premise of Kingdom Hearts 3. I always figured it's because that's how what the X-Blade split into, but you needed one person per piece. It's true, but the explanation given in Xehanort's journals for why it broke apart like that is because light is denser than darkness. It's like they would be equivalent in terms of energy, but because that energy is representative by how dense light is versus how not dense darkness is, you need it breaks apart into a different amount of good and evil. But yeah, no, they're supposed to match up like that, but the reason why given is because of the whole light is stronger than darkness, so to create an equal amount, you would need less light than dark. Or more dark than light. That's the big thing with the Kingdom Hearts games, is a lot of the explanation for this stuff to make it make sense is all hidden inside the text journals that are hidden drops throughout the games. Now, I said this was the overall pitch, and that's true because you have the cloning aspect of the breaking the heart apart and creating 13 more Xehanarts. That's not getting into the fact that there was also time travel involved in all of this. See, at one point, Xehanort sent his own self back in time to before Kingdom Hearts 1 and had his younger self recruited to help out with this whole mission. Which, of course, gets into a bootstrap paradox, which... kind of a crazy whole concept. Whenever you get time travel involved, it's weird. I'm not going to sit here and defend the time travel as it's like the perfect thing. It's just a nature of it. That's where the story goes, is into time travel. Is it weird? Yes. Is it confusing? Somewhat. But the important thing to keep in mind is, regardless of whatever they do with the time travel thing, this is still how things play out. This is like the canonical order of events. Generally, the time travel just pretty much serves as an explanation for how, even way back here, Xehanort knew how to do all this. And that's because way up here, he sends back in time to go and explain and fill in the plot of what's going on. It's weird, yes, but ultimately it's just to fill in holes, not create more. And really doesn't need to be applied for the general understanding of the plot. Xehanort splits apart, becomes two pieces, carries out his plans using the two pieces, then gets reformed to carry out the final phase of the plan in Kingdom Hearts 3. And that is the bad guy's plot for the entire series. So far. Now that you understand what all is going around on the background for all of the bad guys' plots, we can get into what actually happens in these games. Because all of it seems really weird when you're sitting there going like, wait, what's actually going on? But now that you have the information of like what the actual like plan the bad guys are working towards with that whole thing I just explained, we can get into what's going on with the good guys, which generally involves bumping into walls and failing to stop Xehanort from doing anything he wants. Because Xehanort is the man. So, starting back at Birth by Sleep, which again is 10 years before Kingdom Hearts 1. We're introduced to 3 characters: Aqua, Terra, and Ventus. That's the one you know, Palm? It's a good one. It's honestly, it's my favorite. You still don't know? That's fair. Essentially, the events of Birth by Sleep are that Xehanort is a manipulative jerk who ends up convincing Terra to not walk down the path that is lame, and instead walk down the path that rocks, which is to be evil. Which is really funny because Terra is essentially like the perfect Kronk himbo. He tries so hard to do the right thing, and it just ends up keep being evil. In spite of himself. Aqua starts the whole thing by becoming... She is given the rank of Keyblade Master at the start. Come on. So serves as our, like, Obi-Wan Kenobi. She's a leader, she's kind, she's looking out for all of her friends. Terra is also taking the exam, but we do not grant him the rank of Master. He is our Anakin through the story, including the good intentions slowly leading him down the path of evil accidentally thing. Ventus is the little brother who is not currently taking a test to become a master. He looks up to Terra. Terra runs off. Ventus chases after him. Aqua is sent to bring back Ventus. And Terra, I guess. Who are they get sent off by? Well, their teacher. Master Mark Hamill. I'm not joking. His name is Arrakis, which is an anagram for square. And he's voiced by Mark Hamill. Through the course of these events, Ventus ends up coming into conflict with Vanitas to do their whole create the Keyblade thing. Terra ends up becoming his heart so full of, like, unintentional darkness that he's able to be taken over by Xehanort, and Aqua gets kicked into the realm of darkness. Becomes Xehanort, or Xeaterra. At the end of his battle with Vanitas, Ventus gets put to sleep for decades, and Aqua gets sent to the realm of darkness. Bad endings for everyone. Birth by Sleep is a terrible start to the series. If you've never played it, this is why I tell people don't play them play them in release order, not chronologically. Because if you start chronologically, one, a lot of this stuff doesn't make any sense without playing Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 first. Like, Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 set up the basic rules. That's the only one you've played? I'm sorry, Palm. It's a really good game. It's just the story is kind of a downer. It's got a very sad ending that only, like, you're only sitting there going like, oh, is that everything bad? And then you're left with like, And then, like, most of the story doesn't make a ton of sense because they don't explain a lot of the principles of the series. It's the PSP version. Yeah, it's the PSP one. Wait, Palm, I thought you had a PS5. Oh, you mean at the time? Well, now you have a chance to go back and play through the entire franchise, because it's all on the PS5. But it's one of those things where it's like the series itself explains things very much assuming that you're playing them in release order. So it gives you new information in every game, assuming you know the information that has been given to you before in the previous games. So that's why I always say play Kingdom Hearts 1, then play Chain of Memories, 2, Birth by Sleep, all of those. Because then you'll have all of the general understanding of how the universe works and how the rules of the games, like just how the rules of the universe work. That or you can watch the VOD to this, because I explain all that at the beginning. So, that is what happens in... Are we just not going to talk about 358 over 2 days? No! That's another sad one. Also, it's an entire game that all it does is explain why one character is not playing nice with his former friends. That's a thing this game likes to do, this series likes to do, is give you an entire game that only explains, like, backstory that exists, is only relevant for, like, 5 minutes of another game. But they'll build an entire game out of it. I don't mind, it means more games to play, but it's just kind of funny to me. So now we have the characters from Birth by Sleep have all been disposed of. Ventus is sleeping, Terra's evil, Aqua is in the realm of darkness. That's when we get to Kingdom Hearts 1. Which is when we meet Sora. And Riku. And Kairi. These are our good guys for this game. Their whole journey starts off on just a world called Destiny Islands. Appropriate name for a trio of protagonists. Their world ends up getting swallowed into darkness because the heart of the world gets opened up. Drink every time I hear Simply Glee. It's not going to happen very often because... Ow! Well, you just drink every time you hit me with the Gissel. I have no idea what this is. Just literally a playlist that's just Kingdom Hearts music for 3 hours. I don't know. Man, it starts out so sweet when you first put it in your mouth, and then all of a sudden it just goes to, like, dirt. Aw, thank you for head pats. That makes me feel better about the dirt drink. Oh, Siri, dirt, yeah, yeah, dirt drink. You're right here. You drink some. She's sitting right behind me typing this to me. So I'm like, you drink it. So, in the events of Kingdom Hearts 1, essentially starts with... Riku, the best friend, becoming a jerk. Sora going on a fun adventure, and Kairi losing her entire corporeal form and her heart getting stuck inside Sora for the entirety of the game. Does that make a lot of sense? No. But essentially, as Kairi has essentially hides her heart unintentionally inside Sora for protection, Riku is so desperate to try and see new things, he's willing to essentially embrace the dark side to do it. And Sora just kind of ends up going along with whatever, so he ends up getting sucked out of his home into another world, ends up meeting Donald and Goofy. They're like, hey, you've got the key thingy. Let's go on an adventure. And he's like, okay. And through the process of going on this adventure, they end up stopping a bunch of bad guys from Disney movies. And fighting and defeating Ansem, the heartless version of Xehanort we previously discussed. So as they do that, they go on their adventure. At the very end of the whole thing, Kairi gets her body back. So she goes back to normal. Riku ends up going into the realm of darkness to try and help Sora close off the darkness. And Sora just ends up wandering around, going on other adventures. If you notice that Kairi is not doing a lot in this, welcome to the general gist of what's going to be happening for the rest of the series. Kairi, despite being one of the female main character of the three, does not really do much in the plot. Her big thing is that she is a princess of heart, meaning her heart has no darkness in it whatsoever. Which means she is a great MacGuffin for the plot, and does not actually end up doing much. She plays a little bit more of a role in Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3, but not a ton. I'm sad to say. Which is sad. I like Kairi. She's one of my favorite characters. I've got like 2 Funko Pops and a statue of Kairi over like on my shelf. But yeah, essentially Riku ends up redeeming himself at the end to help close the door to Kingdom Hearts so Ansem can't reach it. He ends up locking himself in the realm of darkness. And I suppose it would merit mentioning the fact that he's locked in there with Mickey Mouse. I'm not entirely sure at this point why Mickey's in there. I mean, you get explained. Like, okay, see, we're at Kingdom Hearts 1. Imagine there's something way down here. That's where it finally gets explained why Mickey was there in the realm of darkness to help Riku close a door. So, yeah, it's... And again, it's one of those things where you get an entire game to backfill one little plot point. Like, why was he there? Why didn't he have a shirt on? Well, don't you worry, we're going to release an entire another game that's going to explain that. So as time goes on past that, so he ends up in the realm of darkness. Kairi ends up back on the Destiny Islands alone. And Sora ends up going on additional adventures. Because he is the main character of the plot, and everything will be following Sora. That's when we get our first spin-off game. Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Chain of Memories is an entire game based on originally released on the Game Boy Advance. It explains 2 things. 1, Why Sora doesn't have all of his cool powers from the end of Kingdom Hearts 1 at the start of Kingdom Hearts 2. And 2 introduces the villains of Kingdom Hearts 2. A group known as Organization 13. You might notice that is a familiar number. There is a reason for this. One that will not be made evident until... Let's see, we had that heart little dot over here. That's when we found out why Mickey didn't have a shirt. About there. This is not appearing. There it goes. About there is where we'll find out why it's called Organization 13. And I would say a lot of these are retcons. But, like, there was no explanation to begin with, so it can't be, like, retroactively rewriting anything. It's just kind of like, you'll get an explanation, eventually. But yeah, this entire game takes place in a weird place called Castle Oblivion, which is where they are working on... There's a group of Organization 13 people, bad guys. They wear cool black coats. If you've seen pictures of the guys in the cool black coats, that's them. But there's a group of them that are rebelling against the main group to try and take over and rewrite Sora's memories and all this other stuff. It ultimately doesn't really make a lot of sense. Well, it makes a lot of sense. But it doesn't really matter, is what I'm saying, because none of it will come into play later on. It's one of those things where it gets mentioned here and in the next spin-off game, and that is it. And it does not have anything to do with the larger plot. There's a lot of things that are used in this series to explain small things that don't matter in the big picture, and you can't get hung up on those, or else this series will drive you insane. I am immune to this. I am already insane. But yeah, Chain of Memories, Sora's power reset, introduces a girl named Naminé, who has the ability to rewrite Sora's memories. She is why he loses all of his abilities. This also introduces Riku, who is now out of the Realm of Darkness and in Castle Oblivion. He doesn't know how he got there either. But he's there. And he ends up finding out that they made a clone of him. This plays a minor plot point way down the line in Kingdom Hearts 3. Not super need to figure that out. Crucial. Not super crucial. As I said, this just introduces Organization 13 and why Sora's powers are reset. Other important notes, semi-important notes, Naminé exists. Riku has a clone out there somewhere. And there's a guy named Diz. We don't know what Diz's deal is. We don't even know why he's called Diz, because it's spelt like this. And no, it's not short for Disney. I thought it was at first. I thought it was going to be like Oz, the Great and Powerful, but be Disney. Nope. I can tell you what the actual explanation is, or what it actually stands for. It doesn't make any sense. It stands for Darkness in Zero. Do you feel enlightened by that knowledge? No? Welcome to the club. I, to this day, have no idea why they named him that. I just don't. It's weird. It seems like it's supposed to be a big mystery, but then they never really do anything with it either. Tablet. That is It was supposed to be on the eraser. You just made this 100 times worse, tablet. You and I are going to have words about this later. There we go. Now we're on the eraser. Great and glorious eraser. Yeah, that's Diz. Diz also gets introduced in Chain of Memories. He is there to essentially be annoying to Riku. Like, you don't know what his deal is. He's supposed to be a big mystery thing, but it turns out to be irrelevant. Meanwhile, on the other side of this plot, we are introduced to Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2. Now, a lot of people love to make fun of this name because it is essentially a weird fraction. The full title is, of course, 358 days over 2. The reason for this title is because it takes place over 358 days, and there are two characters that are the story's about. It's the 358 days over 2 characters. That's it. You always called it 368 over 2 days. Well, see, that was part of the problem I always had with it, is because the marketing, like the trailers and the commercials here in the US called it 358 over 2 days. Which doesn't make sense. Like, the only way with the events of the game that it makes sense is 358 days over 2. Because it quite literally is 358 days, and it's split between 2 different characters. So yeah, essentially it's a little over a year of time as told through the perspective of 2 different characters. These characters that we get to know are Roxas, You meant N as in the letter N? So what, now we're getting into algebra too? Come on, you little laggy tablet. You were a weird kid. Hey, you know, right there with ya. I was a ridiculous kid. Of course, to be fair, when these games came out, I was in college. You want to catch up, tablet? Better than calling it over 2 days. I mean, at least I could understand the over 2 days just simply because, as I said, that's how the marketing did it. Yeah, it just has to catch up for some reason. I don't know why. It's misbehaving today. I don't know why. But yeah, the characters we learn about in 358 over 2 days are Roxas and Xion. These are the 2 characters that are The 2 and the 358 over 2. Everything is told from one or these two characters' perspectives, switching between... Oh, I can't realize you can't see Roxas from the screen, can you? Let me raise a little bit lower down. I didn't realize we had... Kind of gets cut off there at the top. And we'll put his name here. Roxas. Now, given that I have mentioned the fact that this game series loves anagrams in terms of their names, I can tell you that both of these are anagrams. Roxas is ex-Sora. Why? Well, because towards the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, say like here on the timeline, if you will, there was a small incident where in order to save his friends and to get Kairi back into her body once his heart was in there, he decides to use the Keyblade on himself and release his heart, which turns him into a Heartless. He gets better. But what does that mean? Well, where was it? We go back to our previous notes. Once it stops lagging, we know that when you get turned into a Heartless, your body gets turned into a nobody, right? We established this. So, not that one. There. What do you mean I'm down the wrong layer? There, that layer. Roxas is Sora's nobody. He is the nobody that was created from Sora when Sora momentarily became a Heartless. Xion, on the other hand, is a bit different. Her anagram is... X number I. Because you see, they're all part of this group called the Organization 13. There's 13 members of it. You know, they're number 1, number 2. Xion is the 14th member of Organization 13. What does that mean? Well, she's not really a member. She's an imaginary number. They didn't want to be ex-Noi. What's a Noi? Is this something I don't know? So yeah, Xion is the imaginary number anagram. Because she is an experiment to create a fake Sora, essentially. You don't know? Yeah, this is a Noi, of course. So they have Roxas as in the organization to essentially be a evil Sora, and Xion is essentially the backup for Roxas. And there's a whole plot involving the fact that they essentially are holding, between the two of them, they're holding on to all of the missing pieces of Sora's heart. So Sora can't come out of the chain of memories in which he's sleeping at the end when he's getting his big power reset without these two giving back their powers. At the end of this game, Xion dies to give Roxas all of her parts of Sora back. We're also introduced to the rest of Organization 13 and find out that everybody who was part of their little coup attempt in Chain of Memories is dead. Shocker. Told you they weren't super relevant. And that is the part of 358 over 2 days. It is very sad. You will cry a bunch playing through that game. Because they make you really, really, really like these two. And then they kill one of them. Worse than that, they essentially have one kill the other. It is very sad. I don't know why, for some reason, the handheld games are the ones that have all the sad stuff in them. Like, you have this one where everyone ends up, like, in a bad place in Birth by Sleep. You have Chain of Memories, which ends up with essentially... the entire plot is about Sora getting brainwashed and gaslit. And then this one, in which you learn how to love two different characters and have one kill the other. Better than the last season of Game of Thrones. Anyway, so that is your spin-off games between Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2. Really? We're doing this again with the lag? You don't want to move on to Kingdom Hearts 2, do you, tablet? Come on. I mean, it's okay. The ad is in progress, so you have time. But come on. Really? Are you just gonna... There you go. You're slowly figuring it out. There we go. Good. It's like the most scuffy freaking time I've ever had to use my tablet for anything. Gives me a lot of confidence for ever trying to do art streams. So finally, we get to Kingdom Hearts 2. In which Sora finally wakes up. But not before we get to spend 6 hours of game time with Roxas. Because Roxas still hasn't given up all of his stuff over to Sora yet. He's just got all of the parts from Xion stuck in him. So if you want to think about it like computer data, Sora is missing 3 megabytes. Xion had 2 megabytes. Roxas has 1 megabyte. Now, Roxas has the entire 3 megabytes that Sora needs. But we got to get it to him somehow. And how do we do that? Well, because this game seems to really enjoy it, we're going to use some good old-fashioned gaslighting. We're going to trap him in a computer simulation like The Matrix and force him into giving up his existence to Sora. Again, you spend 6 hours with Roxas, who thinks he's on summer vacation, before he ends up essentially deleting himself into Sora so Sora can wake up. And Sora has no idea. And the important thing here is, for a little bit of context, this game, 358/2, came out after Kingdom Hearts 2. So when we first met Roxas here, we had no idea about all this stuff. We just knew he was a blonde-haired kid that had Sora's memories. And we get to spend 6 hours with him and his friends, running around, having ice cream, getting pretzels, and then deleting him from existence. Because these games love to break my heart. I'm not gonna lie to you, people, chat. I cried a lot when this game first came out. It didn't help that I ended up, not sleeping the night before and ditched class in college to go and get my copy of Kingdom Hearts 2. And I played for 8 hours straight then, and I got to the part where Roxas went away, and I had some tears. It was very sad for me. I liked him. Anyway, on to the adventure for Sora. Sora's back, and he's got to get with Donald and Goofy, and they're going to go on adventures to a bunch of Disney worlds, and they fight the Organization 13 guys. And it's nice and cool, and everyone loves it. And I'm wondering if at this point I need to just create a brand new document. Because this thing is lagging so hard. Ah. Let's see here. You go to the trash. You go to the trash. Just delete them. Maybe then it'll want to behave without so many invisible layers coming up the works. I don't know if that'll do anything, but it's worth a try. Who knows? We've got to get through this because we're running out of time and we're running out of games. Oh yeah, look at that. It's already working better. Okay, so Sora's back. He's with Donald and Goofy. He doesn't know what happened to Riku. Riku was last seen in the Realm of Darkness. He doesn't know that Riku's gotten out and joined up with Diz and doing all this other stuff. Riku's actually the one who kidnapped Roxas and put him in the computer. In the Matrix. That all happened here. Sora was asleep. So Donald, Goofy, and Sora are going on their adventures. They're fighting against the Organization 13 guys. It's all fun and dandy until about halfway through the game, and things get weird. Because they find a guy. They finally meet up with Mickey. And again, lag. I'm not even doing anything. It's just sitting here and it doesn't want to type. I'm just drawing in circles and it won't do anything. As time goes on, it just does not want to do anything. It's just, ugh. I'm sorry. And there it goes all at once. Just to spite me. No, don't save changes before closing. Ah, don't look at my works in progress. All my random weird stuff. create a new one. Layers. Create a new layer. Let's try doing it on white on black then. Maybe? I don't know. Ow! Or the dirt soda? Alright. If you guys say so. Worse is the further I'm going down into it. Remember how at the very beginning of the stream I mentioned the fact that it seemed I gotta finish it eventually? No, I don't. I can pour out what I don't finish when I'm done with this. I got one more 40 minutes before the stream's over, and then whatever's left in this bottle is going in the sink. Ugh, because remember how at the beginning I said it was like very, like the coloration was darker the further it went down? Yeah, apparently now I'm getting down into that lower part, and now it's not just dirt tasting, it's actively sour. And not like a good sour, like, oh, it's a Sour Patch Kid. No, 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 it's just sour. So let's try this, okay? Let's see. There. Okay, well, we are able to draw. Heard that? He'll only pour it out if he's not finished by the end of the stream. That was not a challenge! No! No, I know no... No! Don't you dare! Give him 5 minutes to rest. Oh, challenge accepted. Oh, I gotta get explaining then. It's fine. Next time, we're gonna do a nice soda for Tuesday. Something yummy. Maybe I'll just do a big thing of chocolate milk, and you can make me drink that. Siri, don't make sure he doesn't do baby sips. Oh. We're on Kingdom Hearts 2, where we learn about Ansem. Only big boy gulps. Now, you might recognize this name. There was another Ansem we had talked about. Ansem was the bad guy in the first Kingdom Hearts, right? He was the heartless version of Xehanort. But it turns out that name wasn't original to him. Turns out that he got that name from another guy named Ansem, who was the leading researcher and maybe king of a world named Ansem the Wise. But Ansem the Wise was betrayed by his subjects and thrown into the land of darkness and all sorts of different things. And what happened to him then? Well, would you believe me if I told you that we've already met Ansem the Wise after he lost his name? That's right. Ansem the Wise is Diz. Boy, wasn't that mystery so worth it? it was like the most pointless twist in the entire series. Honestly, I'm not even joking. Even when I first played it, I was just sitting there just going like, really? That's it? You're just gonna tell us? It's okay. But you see, Ansem the Wise is the one who taught Terranort. You're expecting him to say Mickey? Ansem the Wise was friends with Mickey. But then again, a lot of people are friends with Mickey. Mickey's a very likable individual, and he gets around a lot in these games. Like, he shows up in like the Birth by Sleep game that takes place 10 years before, and he meets Aqua a bunch of times because he has a little like star relic that just randomly teleports him to random worlds. So he just shows up places. He stole it from his master that he was the apprentice to, a powerful sorcerer. Probably after he got in trouble for bringing all those brooms to life. And yes, that is canon in Kingdom Hearts. Mickey is the apprentice of Yensid the Sorcerer from Sorcerer's Apprentice. No need for Gummy Ship when you got a magical teleporting star. Pretty much. That's their explanation, is that he doesn't have a Gummy Ship and everything like that. There's almost every time there's like all these different ways around not having a Gummy Ship. So like, as an example, Mickey has his teleporting star. Aqua, Terra, and Ventus use corridors in space-time to travel. By jumping through the corridors that use essentially the Realm of Darkness to hop between places instantaneously. Not instantaneously, but as we discussed, time doesn't move in the Realm of Darkness. So when they dip into the Realm of Darkness to travel, they are able to get there instantaneously in the Realm of Light. But they have to wear special armor to not get corrupted by the darkness when they do it. And then Sora, Donald, and Goofy use the Gummy Ship. And Organization 13 also use the Corridors of Darkness, but they use them slightly differently to teleport. Gummy Ship building was half the game, at least for you. I'm right there with you. I love the Gummy Ships. I have so much fun with the Gummy Ship missions and doing all the different things and collecting all the bits and pieces from it. Like, hands down, one of my favorite minigames. I fully support the Gummy Ship version of things. You like the Gummy Ships in 2 over 1? I agree. I think 2 had the best iteration of the Gummy Ship system. Like, the set routes with, like, action-packed things and, like, multiple different ways you can play through it and stuff like that. The forest nature and the bare minimum kind of, like, of the idea that was in 1 was nice, I thought. But it was one of those things where it could have been better refined. Like, 2 does a job of taking that and moving it to the next level. Love that. Did not much care for the open world Gummy Ship stuff in 3. Like, it was neat, but I didn't like it as much as I did the stuff in 2. So that's me. I'm not saying it's bad either. I mean, I had fun with it. I still ran around and did all the stuff with it. I found the Moogle constellation. But I still think, in terms of a mini-game function, I think 2 nailed it. So Ansem the Wise trained Terra Xehanort, who then betrayed Ansem the Wise and created Organization 13, which is made up of mostly nobody versions of all of Ansem's subjects and apprentices. Like, half of them are the apprentices to Ansem the Wise, or Diz. We'll just call them Diz, just so we don't get confused. Diz's apprentices. Half of them are like the palace guards that were just like there. Palace guards. And then one of them is a guy named Brag. Brag is a guy that Old Man, original Xehanort, met way back in Birth by Sleep and actually put part of his heart in Brag way back then. We're talking like 13 years before. No, it would have been about 11 years before. There's only about a year between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. Which is weird, because Sora has a growth spurt. Like, he's like a good 6-7 inches taller when he gets out of his little pod. His pants don't fit right. But, so this is just to give you an idea of like how long this was in planning. Like, he feigned, he was supposedly had his amnesia and everything when he became Terra Xehanort. But then he enacted this whole plan to create Organization 13 and kick out Ansem the Wise. Which explains the origins of Organization 13. Their goal in Kingdom Hearts 2 is to create Kingdom Hearts. You now want to draw again? Are we back doing this? There we go. They want to create Kingdom Hearts. Essentially, they're trying to get Sora to kill all the Heartless and then manipulate the hearts, instead of getting them to return to their rightful place, to coalesce them all into a fake Kingdom Hearts so that their nobodies can have their own hearts. Which is kind of a cute story, you know, that they just want to have hearts again. So they want to make a fake Kingdom Hearts so they can put hearts in them again. Of course, the fact that this guy is in charge of this whole thing should put up a bunch of red flags about how honest that entire goal is. Because he doesn't want them to all have their magic own hearts. He wants to put his heart in all 13 of them. Using the fake Kingdom Hearts. And that is essentially the villain's plot of KH2. Sora stops this. In doing so, he reunites with Riku, who has been working really hard on trying to come up with his own way of like, I'm going to embrace the darkness, but I'm not going to give in to the darkness. I'm not going to walk the path of light or darkness. I'm going to walk the path of twilight. Like, seriously, Riku is super hardcore edgelord in these games, and almost every woman I knew growing up, super head over heels for Riku. I think these all went over your head when you played 1 and 2. Some of it is stuff that you only really kind of get in hindsight. Some of it you have to read the books for. Or, not the books, but the in-game lore stuff, like the journals and stuff. So it's easy to bypass most of these, especially if you're just playing it like casually and just, hey, I'm going to beat up these monsters and go through the plot. Yep, that's a bad guy. I'm going to fight the bad guy. Perfectly valid way of playing through the series, by the way. Not going to diminish that at all. The point of the games are to be enjoyed. I enjoy the overly complicated plot. Other people might just enjoy beating up Heartless. I ain't gonna knock it. That's a real fun part of the game, especially Kingdom Hearts 2. Like, I think the combat in Kingdom Hearts 2 is, like, pristine. It's super fun to play through. And so part of it's just kind of fun just going to Disney worlds and hanging out with Disney characters. I like that part, too. I'm the guy, I am a old man at this point, and I will tell you, I still love to go to Disney World and hug the characters. You can ask Siri. I don't think there's a shame in letting yourself have a child part of you. Riding and piling gummy shits go burr for teenage you. Perfectly good way to play the games. Ah! Well, I was hoping you forgot. Alright, here we go. Oh yeah, that's I don't know how the best way to describe it, except for the fact that I took a picture. I looked at a picture of what a tamarind is online, and all I can really tell you is it tastes exactly how it looks. How much of the bottle do I have left? Little under half? I've been taking pretty big swigs because the more swigs I take, the longer I delay the sour taste. Because when you're first drinking it, it's actually very sweet. You're not wrong, you hate tamarinds as itself. Yeah, it's... Again, no idea why you would ever make a soda out of this stuff. But this is... I don't know. This is a brand from... I want to say Mexico that makes these. Does it say where it's from? I don't know, but it's got all the American recycling... Nope, made in Mexico. But it's got all the American recycling information on it. You get it in candy form, but that didn't help. Why do I get the image that it comes in like, kind of like a jellied chunk? Like almost like a jelly candy? Where it's got like sugar on the outside, but the main form is like kind of a squishy, not quite a gummy, thicker than a gummy, but like a jelly gummy. I'm sure someone knows what I'm talking about. And then, of course, the big question people have is, what has Kairi been doing this entire time? You know, Sora's off on his adventures, and Riku is being an edgy lord. What's Kairi doing? She's going to school. She's in like middle school now, I think. In back on the Destiny Islands. Until she gets kidnapped by a member of Organization 13. Because Axel is his name. Why are you so laggy? Anyway, Axel, whose name will appear here in a second when this thing wants to catch up. There it goes. Hey, that turned out pretty good for not being able to see. He is one of the lower-ranking members who was best friends with Roxas. And Roxas is gone, and he wants his friend back. So he kidnaps Kairi to force Sora into... X Lee. Yes, his real name is X Lee, or just Lee when he comes back to being normal. The X is only when they're in the organization they get the X, which is a whole thing and a half about what that actually means and what that represents. And it's kind of weird and ultimately does not serve any major point, except for like one small plot point in a later game, which we'll get to. We might get to. I don't know. We might not have time tonight, but who knows? But he kidnaps Kairi to force Sora into giving back Roxas. Sora has no idea who Roxas is. Just doesn't. And no one explains it to him. They just keep calling him Roxas. And he has no idea what they're talking about. But luckily, Kairi is able to then get involved in the whole plot. Learns about Naminé, who was the girl who had the power to rewrite Sora's memories. She turns out to be Kairi's nobody. From when Kairi lost her heart and her heart went and hid inside Sora, this created a weird pseudo-nobody? That because she was in Sora's... her heart was inside Sora's heart. It created a weird pseudo-nobody that had the power to control Sora's heart in ways. But wasn't a true nobody because Kairi never became a Heartless. Her heart just left her body. She couldn't become a Heartless. There was no darkness in her heart. She was a Princess of Light. Princess of Heart, who has nothing but light in her heart. As we've established. Eventually, I will get into this and stuff. Yes. Anyway, they met each other. Kairi was able to go up to Edgelord Riku and say, "Hey, dummy, we're your friends. We got your back. Stop being with the Edgelord." And he went, okay. And then he helped Sora defeat Organization 13. And that's the plot of KH2. After which, they all go back to their little island. Happy ending for all. Unless... no, what happens is they all go back to the island at the end of the game, and then a bottle shows up on the shore with a little note inside with Mickey's seal on it. And then as a Kingdom Hearts fan, you got to sit there and wait for like years before you find out what the deal with that was. Because there was no answer until the next game, which didn't come out until a while. Yeah, there was a bottle here, little Mickey symbol, sort of. But yeah. So we didn't know what the whole deal there was. The actual whole deal there is Mickey and his master Yen Sid had received some information in the next game in the series that meant that it is time for both Sora and Riku to take their exam to see if they will become Keyblade Masters. Just like they did way back at the beginning of Birth by Sleep. And that is what the bottle was about. I'll just tell you because you don't have to wait, because this already happened. Oh no, I think my entire Photoshop just locked up. Photoshop. There you go. I think. Maybe? Yeah, there's a picture of me. Where did my layer menu go? Windows. Layers. Thank you. So, got about 15 minutes left. 15 minutes. Okay, I can get us at least to Kingdom Hearts 3 in 15 minutes. I'm sure of it. I know it. Provided this thing wants to cooperate. All right. Ah! All right, I'm drinking it. I'm drinking it. Ah! You have to thank Siri for this, because she's the one who found this soda and bought it. I didn't even know this existed. So, real quick. Crazy stuff happened. Essentially, following Kingdom Hearts 2, Jiminy Cricket, who has been always part of this story, Jiminy Cricket from Pinocchio, he's been actually the one who's been keeping track of the journals for everything that's happened. His little top hat. Don't thank her. Don't thank her for my suffering. He's been a part of this whole thing. He's been keeping track of the journal. Don't worry if you forgot about it or I forgot to mention it. He barely ever shows up in the plot, and the only reason you know is because it's called Jiminy's Journal, and you're sitting there going, oh yeah, he's been here, hasn't he? Yes, he has. He lives in Sora's hood, I think? I don't know. Anyway, he had two journals, one from Kingdom Hearts 1, one from Kingdom Hearts 2. But when they were trying to make records of it, they found that there was a weird message in the one in Kingdom Hearts 2. It just had a message that said, thank Naminé, which appeared in it after they woke up. Who's Naminé? They don't know. So what they do is they go back to Disney Castle with Mickey Mouse and Donald and Goofy, and they put it into a giant computer that looks like the Tubby Custard machine, and scan these in, which creates a digital universe, not unlike Tron, which has already shown up at this point. And in this digital universe are all of Sora's adventures with a little digital Sora running through them. On the outside of the computer, Mickey, Donald, Goofy, all of them are talking to the digital Sora and working with him to try and solve the mystery of the message. But then somehow the digital world becomes part of the real world, and Mickey, Donald, and Goofy end up in the Matrix as part of going through the story, because the story catches up with itself, essentially. It's weird and complicated and trippy, and it originally was a mobile phone game, and no one liked it. It's called Recoded. They eventually released it on the DS. It wasn't any better there, but it was at least an improvement over the cell phone version, which was only released in Japan, and no one else had access to it. And it drove me nuts. And the plot's weird, but ultimately, what it comes down to is this. It reveals that the key to stopping Xehanort... It's on the Big Combo version too? Oh yeah. Well no, the Big Combo version just comes with essentially like a text rundown of what happened and some cutscenes. You don't actually have to play the game on the combo version, which is a blessing, I will tell you. You get all the story, but you don't have to actually play that awful thing. But yes, they do at least include the plot on the compilation of the games. You wish it would let you play 358/2? That would have been nice. 358/2 honestly was an okay game. Although it was a bit grindy at times, because you would just end up doing missions that are just kind of like, go kill 15 Heartless. Okay. Here's a cutscene. Move on to the next day. Okay, go kill 25 Heartless. It felt a little bit like the early game of The World Ends With You, if you've ever played it. Where you're just doing missions that seem like kind of pointless and grindy until the plot gets going. That's what a lot of early 358/2 felt like. And I think it's actually because they were done by the same team. I hope you played it. It's not terrible. It's just it's one of those things where you got to go in with managed expectations, I think. But anyway, the big rundown on this is essentially what they found out is that Xehanort is coming back. You thought The World Ends With You was part of Kingdom Hearts? Close. There is one world in one of the games where the World Ends With You characters show up in it. But it's not... Considering D3, yeah, it's Dream Drop Distance. They show up in Traverse Town there, which... Traverse Town is an entire world where essentially this is where people whose worlds were destroyed or swallowed into darkness end up because they don't have anywhere else to go. That's Traverse Town. It's a whole world of just essentially refugees. And all of The World Ends With You characters show up in there. Probably because they hadn't been greenlit for a sequel yet. So their world was destroyed. I don't know. There was some probably weird meta thing with it. But ultimately what it came down to is they were just kind of cameos there because Tetsuya Nomura wants to do a crossover with everything he has ever had a hand in. Hydrate, yes. Bottle's almost empty. Oh, it's the aftertaste that gets you. And a lot of people thought there was going to be more to do with The World Ends With You, because at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, there was a teaser for the next game where it showed Sora and Riku in the two locations in Japan where the World Ends With You games take place, namely Shinjuku and Shibuya, I think, are the two. But it's been confirmed that no, that's not going to be the case for Kingdom Hearts 4. They're different versions of... It's a different Japan, a different Shibuya than the one that's in The World Ends With You. This has been confirmed, at least, by the creators. So no, we're not getting more World Ends With You stuff, at least not initially. Yeah, ex-Shibuya. No, seriously, that's how they did it. It's like, it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, how do you know that's a different Shibuya? Well, because you see, in The World Ends With You, Shibuya is spelt in, like, katakana, but the one we used for the one in Kingdom Hearts is in, like, kanji or something. And it's like, that's their explanation for how you know they're different. So yeah, it's pretty much ex Shibuya. But yeah, the ultimate thing is they learn in Recoded is Xehanort is coming back, and to help fight Xehanort, they need to get Aqua, Terra, and Ventus back. Which will hopefully eventually show up here. Yeah. And because of that, they know that, like, in order to get the Aqua, Terra, and Ventus back, they're going to need Sora and Riku to be, like, Keyblade Masters. They're going to have to be ready for this. So Mickey sends out the little note, which then leads into 3D, which actually stands for Dream Drop Distance. Which, gameplay-wise, is one of my favorite games in the series. But plot-wise is where this whole thing goes crazy. Because this is where the time travel plot ends up coming into play. Generally, this is the big catch-up, get ready for the finale game. Dream Drop Distance has... no. Go away, box. Why is it so laggy? Sora learns about Roxas and Ventus and all this other stuff because Sora has a really unique property. No, actually, I'm going to try something here. Let's close this. Oh. Close. Paint. Aha! Let's go old school. This'll work. I'm sure of it. Oh yeah, that's way better. I mean, I can't switch between this and the eraser super easy, but I don't really care. I'm just glad it works. At least I thought it worked. Oh, there it goes. Yep, had it figured out. You got an art program I might like? You let me get a link for you? Drop it in the Discord. Links aren't allowed in the chat. It'll get stopped here. But if you drop it in the Discord, I can grab it from there. Anyway. So, 3D. Dream. Drop. Is going to DM it to me? That works too. Just letting you know, it's like the links don't go in the Twitch chat. It'll block it. But other than that, other ways, perfectly valid. DM it to me, drop it in the Discord, whatever. So this is where Sora finds out about what the deal with who Roxas is, who Ventus was. Because this is where you kind of piece together the big thing that Sora has a very unique heart. One of the running things is at the end of every Kingdom Hearts game, every Kingdom Hearts trailer, there's a little thing that says, reconnect. And you're kind of like, what's the whole deal with that? Well, the whole thing there is that Sora's heart has a unique property to be able to link connections between people and his heart. Not only that, but he's got a big heart. As in, he's got a lot of room in there. You know how Kairi, for a while, stayed inside the heart? Her heart stayed inside, Sora's heart? Well, technically, if you really think about it, Roxas is in there, too. Oh, but you know what? When Ventus fell asleep and was put away for ages, his heart reached out and found Sora, too. Ventus's heart is in there, too. So, with Sora's heart... Oof, hydrate. So with Sora's heart, he is able to restore and bring back Roxas, Ventus, and keep the connections going between all the peoples whose heart has touched his. He is an anchor point for everyone he was interacted with, and their hearts all syncing together using him. That is Sora's unique property. So despite the fact that Sora is kind of a doofus, and isn't as good a fighter as Riku, and isn't as cool as Riku, this unique heart of Sora's is the key to everything in Kingdom Hearts, because as long as hearts can connect, all sorts of crazy stuff happens. And I got the hydrate. Let's see if we can finish it this time. This is the last one. Let's see if we can do it in one. Okay? Oh, there we go. Victory for Vicarian. I have finished the bottle. Ugh. Whew. Oh. Never again with that stuff. Now I know what a tamarind is, and I will never do it again. Thank you, thank you, thank you all for your... We'll find something else weird to drink, because we got a Chaos Sunday coming up here in a week, and we're going to have to find something really twisted for that. I'll have to see what I can dig up. Or maybe it's time to crack open some soda that's been sitting on the shelf for, 10 years. Get out a thing of Pepsi Blue and torture myself with that. Gotta do something special for a Chaos Sunday. Anyway, so yeah, that's the unique thing with Sora, you find out. Riku becomes a Keyblade Master. Yay, Riku! Sora does not. Sora, through the convoluted plots of Organization 13, the true Organization 13, as they call themselves, not the one from KH2. These are the true Organization 13 is all the Organization 13 members made up of the 13 people that Xehanort has, through all his time travel shenanigans, stuck pieces of his heart into. So they're like half Xehanorts. And they're planning on making Sora into their 13th. So this entire game, Sora's trying to do a test to prove he can be a Keyblade Master, but he's being tricked and manipulated into diving down and down and down and down and down and closer into darkness to corrupt him. And it's only because of Riku that they break out of this. Mini-Norts, yeah. So by the end of this, you have the true Organization 13, led by the real Xehanort, who has reassembled after his Nobody and his Heartless have both been destroyed. Sora, on a mission to figure out all the people connected to his heart, and helping people. But because of this whole thing, much like Chain of Memories, this whole descending into darkness thing, yeah, guess who had his power button reset again? Yeah, Sora's weak again. Sora's gonna have to spend the start of Kingdom Hearts 3 working to get his power back. And the big thing here, the key thing that is the underlying plot of Dream Drop Distance is the idea of sleeping worlds. Sleeping worlds are worlds that were part of the world of light, but fell to darkness, were destroyed. They had the heart of the world was consumed by darkness, and it fell into the realm of darkness. However, at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, you ended up restoring all of this. You sort of fix all of this. Like bringing all these worlds back. But not all of them came back. Oh, you can't see it. I'm way over here. There we go. But most of the worlds came back. But a few of them are sealed away in the darkness, trapped sleeping worlds. That means they're not... They've reformed, but they haven't emerged from the realm of darkness yet. They haven't come back to the realm of light, but their worlds are actually still there, are back. And Sora and Riku's test is to go to all these sleeping worlds and reawaken them so they come back to the realm of light. Using a power called the Power of Awakening. Which sounds really cool. But what you find out about the Power of Awakening is that it's not just, hey, we're waking up sleeping worlds. That's one thing it can do. What it actually is you diving into someone else's heart. Now, that could be a world's heart, like in this case, or it can be a person's heart. Can you imagine what you can do with the power if you can go into someone else's heart? And whatever you do to that inside that heart has an effect on the person you're in there? You can change so much. And that little detail, because in fact what you find out is that most of Riku's game is actually spent inside of Sora's heart. Riku's in Sora's heart the entire time. Sora is going into the worlds. But because the heart is the recreation of what's going on with Sora, Riku's going to all the worlds that Sora's going to inside of Sora's heart. It's weird. There's layers and like onion. Like Shrek. Sora is like Shrek. I think that's the final statement for this entire presentation. Sora is like Shrek. So many layers. So many. Layers for days. But this Power of Awakening becomes a key component in what Sora is able to do. And what Sora ends up almost breaking reality in the course of Kingdom Hearts 3. We won't get into that tonight because we're already past 10, or past my end time, which is 10 or 11 or whatever. Anyway, past end time for the stream. So we won't have time to get into KH3 tonight. But just keep in mind, if you ever play it, this Power of Awakening thing, oh yeah, that is the big takeaway from Dream Drop Distance. This power is super dangerous in the wrong hands, kind of the type of thing. And because Sora's unique ability to connecting, he doesn't need to just dive into that. He's connected to all these different hearts. Imagine what you could do with all that. You could see why the organization guys wanted him. Make him evil? Turn him into a mini Xehanort? Oh man. So much damage.